at Chachu administrative area. The driver complained that he had been waiting for a long time, but the councillor was not coming out. The witness went to check and found the front door wide open. Inside, the deceased was lying on her back in a pool of blood with a bullet wound to her head. The motive is unknown and no suspects have been identified at this stage.
The N3 East at the Albertine Bridge south of Johannesburg in Gauteng is blocked because of protest action. We'll have details in our next bulletin. The Eastern Cape Transport Department says snowfalls continue to affect high-lying parts of the province, particularly around Middelburg and the Lützburg Pass, creating hazardous driving conditions, while the snow has not yet led to any road closures. Officials warn that conditions could deteriorate if the snow persists. Provincial Transport Department spokesperson Unathi Bengqose.
It continues to snow quite heavily on those high-lying areas, particularly in the Middelburg area where there's Wappersberg Pass. The Lützburg Pass is also affected, but it's not enough to force any closures at this stage. But we're keeping an eye on those roads, and we're calling on road users, motorists in particular, to approach those with extra caution. And of course, if their journeys are not that necessary, maybe avoid them altogether and delay them until it is safe to do so.
A storm has left a trail of destruction in Skommansdal and Buffelsspruit in Nkomazi in Mpumalanga. More than 50 houses have been damaged. This is the third time since the beginning of the year that the area has been hit by a storm. The municipality's mayor Phindile Magagula says their teams are assessing the damage from the last night's storm.
The damage is very much severe. To the house that I have visited, there is no roof. Everything is wet inside those houses. They don't even have a place to sleep as we speak. For now, the relief that we have as a municipality, we are going to provide them with sponges and blankets and some food parcel.
Action SA in KwaZulu-Natal has called on the eThekwini municipality to establish a dedicated unit to tackle crime and address the issue of hijacked buildings in the Durban city centre. The party's provincial leader, Zwakele Mngwango, also participated in a march against illegal immigrants in Durban that drew hundreds of people. The march concluded on Mahatma Gandhi Road, formerly Point Road. This area, often associated with high levels of crime and urban decay, it also includes a number of businesses, many of which are operated by foreign nationals. Mngwango elaborates.
We're saying within Metropolis, let's have a unit. They're going to work closely with Home Affairs and other stakeholders and SAPS to deal decisively with the issue of illegal immigration and drugs and human trafficking, because we know what is happening here in South Beach. So also, we are saying as Action SA, it's high time that leadership need to prevail in eThekwini. Because part of the problem is because leaders are not prepared to listen. These marches we see on a day-to-day basis is also results of anger from communities. As Action SA in council, as you said, we're in council. We recently, last council meeting, we had a motion. The motion was saying, let's have a stakeholder engagement arranged by the municipality, kind of a conference, to have some resolutions in terms of how we resolve these issues.
America news website Axios is reporting that the White House believes it's getting close to an agreement with Iran that would end the war and set a framework for more detailed nuclear negotiations. President Donald Trump earlier announced he was suspending Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz, a short-lived effort by the U.S. Navy to escort commercial vessels out of the blocked waterway. Showing Bryce P's report.
Despite these developments, nothing is certain, with the public posture of both sides appearing to dig in amidst military skirmishes in the strait earlier this week as a result of U.S. efforts to break Iran's chokehold on the waterway. The Security Council meets in close consultations on the issue Wednesday, and a vote could follow soon, but likely depends on whether a broader deal is struck via Pakistan's mediation between the two sides, with Axios reporting that the sides are the closest they've been to an agreement since the war began. The deal would involve Iran committing to a moratorium on nuclear enrichment, the US agreeing to lift its sanctions and release billions in frozen Iranian funds, and both sides lifting restrictions around transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Sherwin Brycepe's SABC News, New York.
Recapping the top story, Eastern Cape police are investigating a case of murder following the shooting of the member of the Mayoral Committee for Corporate Services at the Chris Hani District Municipality, Tume. I'm on Delambana for SFM News headlines at 4:30.
In sports, the South Africa to welcome world's best and maiden premier paddle event. Sundowns managing player load ahead of Chiefs showdown. An IPL final move from Bengaluru to Ahmedabad. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. We kick it off in Joburg on the N3 South with protesting earlier at Spruitview. It was quite heavily backed up. There is just a little bit of a delay south of Heidelberg now, down to Leondale Road into that Spruitview area. The northbound side, if you're coming up from Heidelberg through Spruitview on your way to Joburg, is okay, but just that southbound slowdown through that area. Joburg's N1 running south is heavy today between Buccleuch and the Winnie Mandela Drive off-ramp. Looks okay through Midrand. Looks even better up through Pretoria today. Good run on that section of the N1 heading north. Just a reminder about flooding across parts of the Eastern Cape, particularly around Gqeberha. There's still a lot of flooding out that side. Also, Knysna, some fallen trees and flooding as well today with some very heavy rains across that region. Durban, a crash on Sandili 2C going west just around the M4 highway. The rest of Durban looking generally a little bit lighter than you might be expecting today, which is good news. And if you're driving out of Cape Town city centre, the N2 already busy as far as Bunga Avenue. Out at Langa, the N1 towards Kuba, interchange is heavy, and the N1 service road all jammed up, passing Canal Walk towards the N7 North connection. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right. Listen, let's get reaction. First of all, on a conversation I had with Boniface Mwangi, the award-winning Kenyan photojournalist, artist, activist. Really fascinating one. Then that last call we had just before the news with Musa saying, you know what, forget about other evidence. The trend is there. You know, when you go to restaurants or coffee shops around the country, how many of them are now being manned by foreign nationals versus South Africans? Because my question I asked was, how do you know that there's a systemic plan not to employ South Africans? How do you know that? And his answer was very interesting to say, it may not be on a one-on-one basis, but the trend is there, and you can just check it when you observe it. Well, if that's the case, how do you go around that as well? Right, more to come. Lots more to talk about, including this ongoing conversation about the legal fraternity of all people challenging the BEE codes within that legal sector. We'll talk about that. And there's also other issues around disaster management coming to the fore because of huge concerns in some issues, right? But I'll tell you what, Gary Player said something very interesting, and I want you to hear that after this.
And the big thing that I wish, and I pray every day, and wherever I talk, and I do a lot of talking, I say to the young people, just love this country, because you don't realize what's going on around the world. Even the students of the great universities of America really don't understand what's happening around the world today. There is a silent war taking place against America today. And what we've got to do is make these kids realize that freedom and exercise and education, start reading some books. Yes, keep your phone, but also read some good books. And listen to what Mr. Kennedy has said. What you put in your body is so important. What a wonderful job he's done, and all your cabinet members, in which I say thank you for maintaining this great word, this cherished word, freedom. And the big thing that I wish, and I...
And there we are. So that was, we played it from Fox News. That's Gary Player together with Donald Trump, by the way, and a whole lot of young children around them in this office, and talking about America and the children. And I'll leave it to you. What do you make of that? And the comments, some of the specific words he used. Okay, we'll talk about that too.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
I've been reading a story from Ferial Haffajee on Twitter, and the gist of the story is that the finance minister has warned Joburg, to the mayor directly, that Joburg is in severe financial distress. And he's done that in a letter to the mayor, suggesting, financial distress on the verge of bankruptcy. Read that piece, read the tweet from Ferial Haffajee as she's put it together in the Daily Maverick. It's an important conversation to have, right? Well, what else can we talk about? I'm just trying to battle to understand what are the priorities. Like, everything is a priority. That's why we call you the National Pulse. Now, top law firms, we touched on this the other day too, top law firms are fighting transformation in court, or an aspect of transformation really in court, arguing that the legal sector code harms BEE. We found out more about what the case is all about and what took place on day 2 now of the hearing. Together with me is attorney and legal analyst Impumelelo Bond Nyoka. Appreciate your time and thanks for joining us, Impumelelo.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and the SAFM family. Thanks for inviting me.
Right. So, what is this? I mean, on the one hand, the perception is these legal people from the big legal companies of the country are actually fighting transformation. Are they doing that?
All right. This proposed legal sector code is new. Previously, the law firms were operating under the generic codes of good practice, complying with the scorecard, the ordinary mechanisms like socio-economic matters, bursaries, etc. Now this new code is specific and is accelerating transformation as it is. For instance, it is saying that companies, law firms, or even practitioners who have more than 25 million rand turnover, they must have 50% black ownership within 5 years, 50% black representation in management within 5 years, and 3.5% of skill development expenditure. And they must also spend 60% of procurement on black advocates, for instance, 25% of that to women. So their complaint is that these measures are unreasonable because they apply to only less than 5% of the legal fraternity. 95% of law practices do not have that 25 million turnover. So it is unreasonable because it only applies to them. They are saying that they are not anti-transformation. They've been complying before, but this one is unreasonable. It's unattainable. That's what they are saying.
Okay, and I mean,
so they are fighting not the principle of transformation, but the rigorousness.
But why would they? I mean, these are amongst the largest companies in the country, right? Why would they feel that they're the exception to the rule? If yes, I know the others, you mentioned the smaller companies, but shouldn't it be that the larger companies inevitably need to have a different set of rules because by their very nature, they are the largest. They're the ones that get the lion's share of the business of the, in terms of the in the legal space in our country.
They say, for instance, one of their arguments following on that is that to have ownership, it must be practiced in attorneys. Generally, the progression of a lawyer, junior lawyer to that level takes about 10 to 8 years. It's not quick. And it has got the additional responsibility or duty that they must get funding for those equity. For that equity, it's not going to be given for free. So that will expose them to the general debts of the company. That's what they are arguing. So they say this law is more it's not voluntary as the generic codes. It's forcing them. There'll be a verification professional checking on them every 5 years. But it must be between 30 to 50. That is what they are saying. It's as if now they are saying in short, this law is targeted only for the big firms and not for the law source, for the entire law practice. That is what they are. And therefore, it is not fair. The law must be general. in the application.
Now, you're not the judge, I get that, but I mean, from your sense, do they have a convincing case?
My standpoint is that one of the values of our constitution is the achievement of equality, to right the wrongs of the past 100%. And equality can be a deviation from the normality of the equality that we know, where there can be fair discrimination. That is the reason for the BEE code. However, a big however, there must be fairness in the approach. The case might not succeed, however good it might be in practice. That is why Ebrahim Patel, the former Minister of Trade, did not sign that policy. He left office not signing it after being on his deck for years because there were these false lines with it. I'm therefore saying whilst transformation is well and good, it must be done correctly and there must be fairness. If a law is irrational, it is irrational. It will be struck out by any court.
What happens
so
next?
My fear is that they may win. The other sides, although there are 12 bodies opposing it. The principle is good, but the manner in which it is done undermines the very same principle.
What happens next?
Okay, the case is ongoing now. The arguments are being made by the 4 applicants because, as you know, the general principle is that he who he wants to prove a point, must make the case for them. So they are making the case that this law is irrational. Those that are opposing this application will have their turn. So that's why it's set down for a week. So it's still the case for the applicants. They will come, the respondents will make their case. The court, the Gauteng High Court, may postpone its judgment. Understandably, because the matter is complex. Although there have been murmurs already that the judge is biased because of certain remarks that she made during the application, but that's a story for another day. So my gut feeling, I'm being honest and fair, I don't think this case is going to be won by those that are opposing. The applicants can win it on the merits of rationality.
Interesting. You got us thinking about many things. Appreciate your time here. Let's leave it at that. Phumelelo Bond Nyoka, the attorney and legal analyst, looking at the issue of the top legal firms in the country, like the big 5, some of them anyway. They are arguing that the current legal sector code, as applied, to the legal fraternity, needs to be revised. It harms how BEE is manifested, certainly in the legal space. I wonder what you think about it. You could well be someone in that space yourself, and if that's the case, do share your thoughts on that too, right? This is the National Pulse.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Listen, just a quick one before we talk about disaster management. That piece by Ferial Haffajee in the Daily Maverick, right? She's saying Enoch Godongwana has ordered Joburg's mayor to stop the implementation of a budget-busting wage deal and warns it could affect the national economy. In a second letter in less than a year, Minister Godongwana has warned Joburg Mayor Dada Morero that the city's budget is unfunded and that it is in severe financial distress. He's also instructed the mayor to explain how he intends to fund a massive wage deal with the city's workers and ordered implementation to stop. Godongwana's letter reveals that the creditors are owed 25.2 billion rands, up from 1.7 billion at the end of the 2022-23 financial budget. And the end of it is the city's cash and cash equivalent of 3.9 billion in 2024-25 is insufficient to repay creditors their 25.2 billion. That's according to Godongwana in a letter dated 24th of April, so last week, right? This is a marker, and I'm quoting once again, of severe financial distress, indicating that the city does not have the liquidity required to pay its creditors. That letter from Enoch Godongwana to the mayor of the city of Joburg. Make of that what you will. Right, let's talk about other issues in South Africa. Several parts of the country have been affected by flooding following heavy rains, raising concerns about damage to infrastructure and the safety of residents. We already know about some of the schools in the Southern Cape or some parts of the Karoo as well, closed because of severe flooding, right? What's the position in some of the key areas? Let's find out with Dr. Elias Sithole, National Disaster Management Centre Head. Thanks for your time, Dr. Sithole, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to the viewers as well.
Thank you. I mean, you know, we get good weather, we get bad weather, and we get some weather that's even worse than bad. What are we experiencing right now?
What we're experiencing right now, there are other areas which have been flooded in different provinces, your Northwest, Northern Cape, Western Cape, where they are experiencing heavy rainfalls. And then some of the trees have closed the roads, and some of the infrastructure has been damaged, like in the northern, in the Northwest. So, but our teams are on standby. They are also responding to all those damages which we are currently experiencing.
Okay, so you have some advice then, you know, in terms of disaster management. I would think about, you know, at macro level and even at certain communities. What can you tell us?
Yeah, at community level, because we work with community-based structures where they're able to assist us in terms of the evacuation, if there's a need for evacuation, or we need to assist the communities in relation to the humanitarian relief. So we work with the community organizations, but also municipality. They will lead that kind of a process, but also at the provincial level, provincial government, they make sure that municipality, they get the support which they need. And then also on our side, as a National Disaster Center, we do come in and then assist where the need arises as a national center.
And in terms of right now, you know, are there areas that are really concerning for you that requires emergency support?
Yeah, we have areas in the Western Cape which we are closely monitoring because we got an indication that some of those areas have been affected. And then we have some of the areas in the Northwest which has been flooded, and then we need to make sure that those communities, they need assistance. And there are areas as well in KZN and then in the Northern Cape. Specifically, we have a settlement which has been built in the floodplain areas. So we are also focusing on those areas as well. And low-lying bridges, we know that sometimes the kids have to go to school, and then we do work with the Department of Education to advise them whether they have to close the schools or what is the way forward.
Mm-hmm. And what about on a personal level? I mean, you know, people in communities that are at risk. What can you tell, you know, individuals and families?
Yeah, what can we say is that people have to listen in terms of the messages which we always communicate through the community structures on television in terms of the awareness, so that they can actually take those early warnings seriously. But also, of course, making sure that if they see some of their neighbors, if there are challenges, and then they have to reach out to the relevant authorities. In this case, people who are closer to the communities will be your ward councillor and also the municipality. And then that's why we always say communities, they have to be involved in the space of disaster management. Then it assists us in terms of how best we drive the function of disaster management in the country to the next level.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I appreciate your input on today's show, Dr. Elias Sithole, National Disaster Management Centre Head. And what we can understand is the weather is atrocious. Some parts of the Western Cape, absolute flooding. Some parts of the Eastern Cape, extremely cold. snow as well. And then if you move further north, let's take the Gauteng region. It's been cold, lots of rain yesterday. No rains now expected at all, but very, very cold. It's been a chilly time, and again, some communities affected more than most, and inevitably, it is the most vulnerable, the poorest of the poor that are most affected by this. So if you are wherever you are in the country, and you've observed again how this change in weather to cold and miserable has affected you, and you require, support. It could be you or your friends and family. Let us know. I'd love to get your thoughts on that as well. I'll take your calls in the meantime. We go to George in the Southern Cape, yeah? I think. Andile, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, are you in George as in Southern Cape, George, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in George, man, and it's raining.
Yeah, give us a weather report first, yeah. Give us a weather report.
It's raining Kata and Hona here.
Kata and Hona, got that.
Oh, it's very wet. It's puddles of water everywhere.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
But I just want to comment on this thing of legal funeral, but I'm not going to complain about that. It's just a lived reality, you understand? Because when you come to George, for example, you go to Blanco. Blanco is mostly restaurants and hotels and whatever. It's really, our buses are full of Zimbabweans. You can't even deny it. It's like it's in plain sight. And we're not saying anything about Zimbabweans anymore, because I think we should just integrate them, because they're not going anywhere. But the other ones are saying, if you think it's right in Zimbabwe, then you must go. You must go back. Go and see there in Zimbabwe. Live there when. See if you can live there in Zimbabwe. So I'm not complaining anymore. Let's just find a way to live in peace with these people.
All right, but the question is, how do we find a way? Got that, Andile. Raining Kata and Hona, as he says in George. But let's find a way to let them all live in peace. Right, here's one that I think should get us all thinking.
Asra, thank you for a show that is well done. But I want to tell you something. The approach that our fellow brothers and sisters are using against the foreign nationals is totally wrong. You cannot, use, one pen to paint everybody that everybody in the townships are illegal immigrants. If they want to check for those who don't have documents, they must check for those who don't have documents. But asking that all shops must close, whether you are documented or undocumented, is totally wrong.
Well, I mean, that's my stance as well. You really can't do that. Can you just imagine? You just paint people, like I saw the other day. It's like, you're from Nigeria, right? Yes, you guys are all crooks. And like, no, I'm from Malawi. Oh, you guys are all illegal. You guys are crooks. Like, how do we get to that situation, notwithstanding that point that there are many people who are undocumented in the country? That doesn't mean everybody's undocumented. By the way, talking about other issues, CNN's founder, revolutionary founder in this case, Ted Turner, news that he's died at the age of 87. News headlines here with Tondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, motorists have been advised to exercise caution due to protest action that is taking place on the N3 north towards Leondale on Gauteng's East Rand. Eastern Cape Police are investigating a case of murder following the shooting of the member of the Mayoral Committee for Corporate Services at the Chris Hani District Municipality, Tumeka Bikwana, and oil prices have fallen and global stock markets have risen following reports that the US and Iran are close to a deal to end the war. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg House.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Joburg's Mike 1 is under pressure today, queuing up from Melrose all the way down through central Joburg until about the Boysons exit. Only really clears from that Boysons off-ramp. N3 South protesting earlier at Heidelberg Road down to Leondale Road. So right opposite Spruitview on that N3 from that Heidelberg Road exit is where you'll pick up that queue. Bit of pressure on the N1 South to William Mandela and the Mike 1 N1 northbound slow from Sandton up to about Samram before you sort of easing out of that queue. Durban Durban's N2 South under a bit of pressure from Umgede Road, making your way down towards Spaghetti Junction today. And Cape Town, good news. At last, Chapman's Peak Drive has been reopened. Chappies has been closed for a while due to rockfalls, but it has been reopened for your homebound trip this afternoon. And the N1 out of town fairly slow as you leave the city centre, picking up queues from Woodstock all the way through to Plattercliff Hill and up to that Durban Road exit at Belleville. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Right, to me, you promised you're going to talk about paddle just now, but what are you going to start with?
Yes, the world's top paddle players are set to come to South Africa when the Pretoria Premier Paddle P2 event takes place at the Sunbet Arena at Times Square in July after a landmark 2025 season that saw the leading official global professional paddle tour debuted in the United States. The 2026 season will feature 26 tournaments across 18 countries, and South Africa has now been included. Here's Prime Media Sport Vice President Toby Badenhorst just sharing what the Pretoria P2 event is all about.
Well, this Premier Paddle Pretoria P2 project has been in the works for the last 12 to 18 months with meticulous planning in terms of involving all the key stakeholders, both globally and locally, and really ensuring that we deliver a world-class tournament, for South Africa. So it's great that South Africa is now positioned on the world stage to be one of the 28 global stopovers. Of course, they've got the Premier Paddle events happening in Miami, London, Dubai, Paris, and now Pretoria as well. So it's part of a new 3-year licensing agreement with Premier Paddle from 26 through to 2028, where Prime Media Sport will serve as the official promoter of the event. And we look forward to hosting the world's best male and female paddle players all coming to South Africa.
So, Ashraf, this is completely different to what they had at the Wanderers.
Yeah, so in fact, last year the Wanderers there, the SA Invitational, right,
Mm-hmm.
which actually were, probably 10 or 15 of the best players in the world from number one. They were that good. This is probably less bigger in terms of the status of the players, but there are some of the top players in the world will come. But more importantly, that one was very much exhibition paddle. This one is part of a global circuit, which is significant. The fact that you can use it as a lead story. When would we ever see that happening? Lead story of paddle on a sports show. I mean, something shows you that something dramatic is happening with the sport. As you know, I know pretty well because I play the sport. We have these paddle news network accounts, and it's still middle class. That's the big challenge. How do you mainstream paddle to be played by the masses in our country? And that would be exciting.
But clearly it's growing, and it's growing in leaps and bounds. In terms of football, Kaizer Chiefs winger Pule Modi says that the team is all set to face Mamelodi Sundowns at a sold-out Loftus Stadium in Pretoria this evening. The Glamour Boys are determined to bounce back from their disappointing loss against Siwelele last Wednesday. Meanwhile, Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that they're very desperate for points.
As you may imagine, in the last days I did nothing more than focus on Polokwane City. I saw absolutely nothing from Kaizer Chiefs. Obviously, my people is working on that. So tomorrow morning, for sure, even today night, I'm going to start to work on that. But it's a match. It's a match to be played with all respect by everybody. Obviously, it's a match that is quite a big match in South Africa. So we have to go for it and try to make it in the best way so that we can get the points, because we need the points to proceed. That's it.
In athletics, South Africa's rising 400-meter star Leander Tukukamur says that he's heading to the World Under-20 Championships in Oregon with serious intent after a flying start to his season. The 18-year-old shattered the national junior record with a 49.94 second run at the Simbini Classic, securing automatic qualification for the global showpiece. Kukamur is also impressed at the World Relay Championships in Botswana, running a strong second leg as Team South Africa claimed silver in the men's 4x400-meter final. In rugby, the Bulls attack coach Neil de Bruyn says that his side cannot afford to underestimate URC basement dwellers Zebre when they clash at Loftus on Saturday. With just 2 rounds left and the playoff race wide open, De Bruyn insists that there is certainly no complacency in that every scrum, tackle and assignment will be crucial Since joining the Bulls late last year, De Bruyne has worked to balance the team's attacking flair with defensive solidity, describing it as a yin-yang effect where both aspects must align. In cricket, the Board of Control for Cricket in India has confirmed that this year's India Premier League final will be staged in Ahmedabad instead of Bengaluru. The change comes after operational and logistical issues were last year's title celebrations were marred by a deadly stampede. The Narendra Modi Stadium, which is the world's largest cricket venue with a capacity of 132,000, will now host the final on the 31st of May, its fourth in 5 years. Finally, in golf, Bryson DeChambeau admits that he is considering his next move as Live Golf's future hangs in the balance. The Saudi Public Investment Fund confirmed last week it will no longer bankroll the circuit's 480 million rand purses, leaving the breakaway league in jeopardy. Now, DeChambeau, who is a two-time major champion, revealed that he has spoken with the PGA Tour while also exploring plans to expand his YouTube channel, including dubbing content into multiple languages. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
This May, SAFM invites you to be exposed and engaged in a different conversation. Not the Africa you think you know, but the Africa that surrounds you. What does it mean to be African today? In our politics, in our economies, in our cross-border movements, in our rich cultures, in our evolving identities. Every day we traverse this continent. 54 countries, 54 unique stories, one shared future. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Addis Ababa, and right here at home. Because South Africa is not separate from Africa. It is a vital part of it. SAFM Africa Month. Conversations, context, connection.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, there's results from Quantum Foods, and to give us all of that, here's Makwe Masilela.
Yes, Ashraf, good afternoon to you and to the listeners. Ashraf, trading conditions were generally positive, supported by higher demand for poultry products, lower feed input cost, lower levels of electricity disruption, continued recovery following the impacts of avian influenza. Hence, the guys expect profits as headline earnings per share to increase by 20%, and stock markets embraced a sense of calm and stability, with the risk of escalation in the Middle East conflict viewed as having diminished, and this put some wind in the sails for the risk sentiment, supporting a rebound in global equities. And any news or sign that the US and Iran are closing in on a deal to end the war, that's positive for market sentiments. But Trump threatened to resume bombardments at a much higher level and intensity that it was before should a deal fall through, and US expects Iran to respond on several major points within the next 48 hours. Apparently, Ashraf, it's a one-page memorandum of understanding, and China continued to add its voice to global pressure to wrap up the conflict, and that's ahead of the meeting next week between US and Iran. And Ashraf, African ports are capturing only a fraction of shipping rerouted around the Cape of Good Hope after closure of the Strait of Hormuz, underscoring their limited ability to turn global trade disruptions into gains. And yellow metal spiked as fresh indications about ending the war weighed on the dollar, boosting the metal's appeal. Remember, dollar was seen as a private safe haven asset as the Middle East conflict was escalating, and gold is up 3% at 4,710, platinum up 3.5% at 2,030. Oil prices slumped to 2-week lows after reports that US and Iran were nearing an initial peace deal, and we see Brent crude is down 6%, trading at $103 a barrel. Stocks climbed around the world, joining the gains in bonds, with the local bonds up 3% and our resources being the best performers. And the rand firmed 1.5% against the dollar, 16.41, 22.31 against the pound, and 19.26 against the euro.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Makwe Masilela. Don't forget we have an hour of the market, 6 to 7, with Jimmy Moyaha coming up. 6 to 7 on the SAFM Market Update.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, if you want to comment about the Gary Player comments that we just played, feel free to do so. If you want to comment about the tweet that I picked up from Field Hafferty about a piece in the Daily Maverick about the Minister of Finance effectively writing to the Mayor of Joburg, basically saying in simple terms, hey, your finances are a mess, really. Feel free to do so. There's a tweet from Noel Crowley. I see your picture. Kalk Bay locked in overcast conditions. What a wonderful picture, by the way. So you bring this weather citizen report, and I really appreciate that. And there's a couple more people I'd say Lumali Georgiasis doing the same thing like you did the other day, right? Driving very rainy. I can see that once again in the Eastern Cape. Very rainy, very overcast as well. Thanks for being that citizen reporter here for the National Pulse. Right, what's more? Here's further questions on this ongoing debate on the issue of migration or immigration.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to SAFM listeners. Look, Ashraf, the government have failed, this immigration issue. They've failed. And now the organizers of the march have taken the law into their own hands because of the failure of the government. And we shouldn't even waste our energy by explaining to the listeners and to the organizers of the march to say what is it that they can do and what is it that they cannot do. They know exactly what they are doing, and they know what is wrong, and they know what is right. Here, the issue is that because of the failure of the government, the organizers has taken the law into their own hands. So whether that is right or wrong, I'm not interested in that. The point here is that we shouldn't look far. The government have failed. Thanks. This is Luzugu in the Eastern Cape.
Well, look, one thing I must concur with you. Like, how did we get to this position? How did we get to a position where there are thousands of people who are undocumented foreign nationals living in the country, number one? How did we get to a position where there are thousands of South Africans who are unemployed? And how did we get to a position where thousands of South Africans feel the need to march to voice their displeasure at what they see as foreign nationals taking their jobs? Do you get my point? How did we get to that position? Who are the people in charge that allowed this to happen in the first place? Ray in Durban, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you for the opportunity.
Much appreciated, man. Yeah.
I was watching social media today, and it's quite a concern for me to see the authorities from Nigeria raising the issue of our entities that are operating in their country legally, saying they're going to shut them down and stuff like that. It worries me because those entities, they are actually benefiting them. But what we get in return, if you look all over social media, I watched the recent show by Kolani, where he recovered drugs worth about over R1 million. Now, I don't see anything positive coming from them. And I would like to raise my support for the protesters that are busy on the streets. I'm anti-xenophobic, by the way. All I'm saying is, all the foreign nationals that are in our country legally, let them stay. At least we can track them. But those that are here illegally, they must leave and come back with proper channels. Because it's a worry that somebody would commit a crime. We can't even track them. We don't have their fingerprints. Recently, there's a guy from Malawi who is wanted in his country for a very serious crime. Yet, we didn't know anything as South Africans in our country. So it raises a concern for real.
Okay, well, look, Ray, I agree with you. But do you agree in what you've just said that citizens can, in the absence, and I have to say this, in the absence of government doing its job, right, is it okay for citizens now to do the job of government and actually go door to door, house to house, person to person, and ask them for their documents or else?
That, Ashraf, I condemn. But in the presence of the law enforcement officers, that must happen because it will happen within the boundaries of the law. Like we saw today, they sent the police in the flat that they have monitored for days. They knew what was happening in the flat. They protected the law enforcement officers, but they did not go and search themselves. I condemn them from going house to house. But in the presence of the law enforcement officers, by all means,
Okay.
I'm with them on that.
Well, a very good call indeed. Thanks for that, Ray. Here's another quick comment we've got.
Mr. Ashraf, I am in town. I work as a security officer here in town. So every day I don't see a police van passing by the whole day. So how can you expect the police to check on these people if they are documented or not, if they can't even drive around the city? So it's impossible for the police to check. That's why the public, the community must do it themselves, because the police, you can stay in town for the 7 days without seeing a police van.
Okay, under-resourced. You didn't say which town. I have to sort of guess which town you are referring to. By the way, this story came up the other day. We're going to talk more about it with NSFAS now being placed under administration. What's the response from Universities South Africa after this?
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental dispute, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Okay, so there we are. I mean, there's some drama. There's allegations now coming from the Minister of Finance. So we understand in a letter to the Joburg Mayor that your city, your finances are a mess, right? I'm paraphrasing. There's also issues around NSFAS, that scheme that is there to assist people who are at universities, young people, of course, who don't have the funds to register and for their tuition and to stay there. And so it's this lifesaver. NSFAS is a mercy to the students, isn't it? But what's happened to NSFAS now being placed under administration, and what is the response from Universities South Africa? Dr. Petiwe Matutu is the Chief Executive Officer of Universities South Africa. Appreciate your time as always on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon, and good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM.
Okay, so first things first, when you had heard that NSFAS was being placed under administration, did that surprise you, or could you see that coming?
It's not surprising that it was put under administration, particularly after 2 members of the board resigned. So the other issues that have been mentioned by the minister have been there. We are aware of them, so it was not surprising. And we welcome, as USAF, we welcome the decision by the minister to place it under administration under the circumstances. However, we see it as a short-term intervention because of the history, the successive number of times that NSFAS has been put under administration.
What then for you are the implications of it being put under administration? Is it only because the 2 board members resigned, or is there so much more?
We're talking about the reasons or the implications?
Well, both. I mean, firstly, the fact that, what is your understanding as to why it needed to be put under administration in the first place?
There are quite a number of challenges that NSFAS has been experiencing. There have been governance failures, including having this board without a chairperson together with the chair of the HR committee. And there have been financial irregularities, and there have been operational challenges that have been within the scheme. So there have been a number of issues. For instance, they could not get their audits passed by the AG. So that has been a concern for a number of years. So it's a number of issues. So we welcome this as an intervention for now. However, we feel that we need to have a national dialogue which is much broader than it because of the persistent interventions which have had to be put in order to rescue NSFAS. The fact that it has been under administration for 3 times over a short period is testament to that. So we do need to have a discussion and a dialogue on the current, the long-term sustainability of governance and effectiveness of the student financial aid scheme, and while recognizing the meaningful reform that is essential so that NSFAS can operate.
When you say
have this transformative mandate, whatever structure we're talking about, in a coherent, accountable, and also enduring manner. So that's what we are envisaging.
Okay, and when you say full reform, right? Reform from what to what?
Reform in a number of aspects, because we need to assess the deficiencies which are currently there, and on the basis of that, we look at the design, we look at the governance, and the implementation of the student financial aid scheme in South Africa.
Okay, let's then look at the implications right now. So the fact that NSFAS has been placed under administration, what impact does it have on the universities that receives the funds from NSFAS to effectively ensure that students can then register, and what impact does it have on the students themselves?
We have been assured, the Minister, that the disbursement of student funding and allowances and the processing of the appeals and the engagement with institutions will continue without any form of disruption during this period of administration. So we trust that there will be measures which will be put in place. And also we acknowledge the appointment of the Professor Mathebula as an administrator. We acknowledge the credentials, and we hope that we can work together. We are committed to working together and the relevant stakeholders to support these efforts that have been that the Minister has assured us of.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time, Dr. Phetiwe Matutu, the Chief Executive Officer of University South Africa. So we know that NSFAS now has been placed under administration. Do you see, therefore, that this would be a vital step? On the one hand, it sounds like a downer. It's like, oh my goodness, what's happened to that place, man? But do you also see it as a vitally important step to reshape NSFAS for the benefit of ultimately the learners, those students who actually go to universities and campuses all around our country?
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, let's hear from you, Gengezi in the Eastern Cape. Go for it. What's your point?
Yes, Ashraf. Good afternoon to you and all our listeners in this afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I want to add my voice around this whole issue of so-called illegal foreigners. A number of people have actually pointed to the fact that, one, this is actually one of the signs of the systemic failures of our government, which to me, I want to concur with them. Number one, before these marches took place, there has been a lot of cry from a number of people about the fact that most of the illegal foreigners are engaging in a number of criminal acts, like selling drugs, and also being scouted to be part of killers, because number one, they don't have any fingerprints that they could be traced with. That has been actually shown by one of the illegal foreigners who was arrested not so long after having killed one of the DJs in Joburg. So on its own, people seemingly are actually tired now. They came to a point of actually saying to themselves, the government is unable to assist us. Hence, they are actually embarking on this. If government could have actually taken a proactive stance long ago to ensure that, our borders are not so porous as they are, and ensure that whoever is within the country is either here legally to do a particular job. Because most of these people, the fact that they're indulging these things like this is because they have got nothing to do. They just roam around during the day without anything
and
to do.
what creative stance should they have taken? Give me one example.
Can I come again?
What creative stance should they have taken?
Government?
Yeah, what stance? When you say stance, what innovative way could they have gone about doing their work?
Number one is to ensure, because in any community, there's either a councillor or whoever who, in one way or another, would be able to know who's staying here and so on. So the integration of these people in a way so that they could be known who they are and the like. For an example, in the place that I'm actually staying in, which I'm not going to mention here for the sake of or whatever, you would find that there's a house where there are more than 20 people in one house. And most of those people, some of them, you just saw them overnight. You don't even know where they came from. And you then begin to wonder, are these people, all of them, having arrived, in a proper way? And during the day, they don't think, they are just looking at us, going to work and the like. So surely these people are actually going to find something to do if they're not engaged by anything.
You've made your point. Thank you for that, Gengezi. And as always, we have a cross-section of opinions from people all around the country and often around the world as well, as people listening via live streaming too, right? Here's another issue that links to what exactly we've been talking about.
Hi, Ashraf. Yeah, regarding this issue of documents and all of that, we cannot allow a situation of citizens going around asking people for their documents. Otherwise, if we do that, we're gonna be advocating for the same lawlessness that we are crying about. We need to have immigration officers and the police asking for documents from people that they suspect they are illegal. So this idea of supporting all this nonsense of people is gonna cause more chaos instead. You understand? So the law enforcement, the law enforcers are the ones abakunyazwa ukuthi they must ask for those documents. Kusho mean singa sembongolo phansi done. Thank you.
Right point made. None of us ask everybody else for our driver's licenses, do we? We leave it to authorities to once in a while stop us at a roadblock. Let's see, in Polokwane, hello.
Ashraf, how are you, sir?
I'm good indeed, right? What's your point?
My point is, the issue of illegal immigrants, it's very bad because it may at times people will name it or say it's an offensive when it's not even that. Because here is one thing. Remember what happened when the daughter of one of the AEFF leaders was kidnapped or killed. What the leader even said when there's fires on TV, I still have the record saying these people went to the wrong family. So imagine all the other families. I'm not saying all the matters that is happening in South Africa is because of the foreign people, but imagine all the people who listened to that and then their families were either killed, were robbed or maimed or whatever. They are hijacked by illegal foreigners. So it means they are the correct people. It can happen to them because it's nothing if it happens to them. But if it happened to this person, then they went to the wrong family.
Okay. All right. We need to leave it at that because it's on to news time now. Let's see. Thank you for that. But here's the thing. What are the numbers? What do the numbers say in terms of how many crimes committed by foreign nationals as well as by other South Africans? I'm not suggesting foreign nationals don't commit crime. Clearly not. But are we also suggesting South Africans don't commit crime? Or we don't, or we do? What are we saying? News at 5. Here's Greg.
And thank you, Ashraf. Call for caution over N3 protests and a drop in oil prices. Good day to you. Motorists have been advised to exercise caution due to protest action that is taking place on the N3 towards Leondale, east of Johannesburg. Ekurhuleni Metro Police spokesperson, Sisanda Madichana, says residents are unhappy over a 2-day-long power outage.
A large group of protesters have barricaded the road using burning tires and throwing stones, causing heavy traffic delays. The EMPD POPs officers, together with the SAPS officers, are on scene monitoring the situation. Motorists are urged to avoid the affected routes and use alternative routes.
The Mopani District Municipality in Limpopo says it has deployed firefighters to Market Plaza outside Zanin after a fire engulfed 4 shops this afternoon. The fire started at one of the storerooms before then spreading to the shops. The municipality says no injuries have been reported. Police are investigating a case of murder following the shooting of a member of the Mayoral Committee for Corporate Services at the Chris Hani District Municipality in the Eastern Cape. Tumeka Bikwane's body was found with a bullet wound at her home. Police spokesperson Nabudu Gantana.
A witness saw the deceased driver's vehicle parked in front of her yard at Chachu administrative area. The driver complained that he had been waiting for a long time, but the councillor was not coming out. The witness went to check and found the front door wide open. Inside, the deceased was lying on her back in a pool of blood with a bullet wound to her head. The motive is unknown and no suspects have been identified at this stage.
The Eastern Cape Transport Department says snowfall continues to affect high-lying parts of the province, especially around Middelburg and the Lootsburg Pass, creating hazardous driving conditions. Officials warn that conditions could worsen if the snow persists. Department spokesperson Unathi Bingosi.
It continues to snow quite heavily on those high-lying areas, particularly in the Middelburg area where there's Wappersberg Pass. The Lootsburg Pass is also affected, but it's not enough to force any closures at this stage. But we're keeping an eye on those roads, and we are calling on road users, motorists in particular, to approach those with extra caution. And of course, if their journeys are not that necessary, maybe avoid them altogether and delay them until it is safe to do so.
Oil prices have fallen and global stock markets have risen, following reports that the US and Iran are close to a deal to end the war. Brent crude oil has fallen well below $100 a barrel. Meanwhile, airlines, in the meantime, have cut thousands of flights globally as jet fuel prices soar. The BBC's Cecil Carr has more.
13,000 cancelled flights means nearly 2 million fewer airline seats, but that's still a very small fraction of all the planes taking off. Not all destinations are affected, with some airlines consolidating schedules and prioritising the busiest and most profitable routes. The German carrier Lufthansa has already announced plans to cut 20,000 flights by the end of October. Other airlines have also said they'll adjust their schedules, while some plan to raise fares.
Top story is that motorists have been advised to exercise caution due to protest action that is taking place on the N3 towards Leondale, east of Johannesburg. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In sports this hour, Sundowns ready for tough clash against Chiefs. Mthembu praises the team's strong effort to wrap up 2026 TNL first leg. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We started Joburg with an update on the Mike 1 South. Pretty heavy today from Sandton all the way down through the Crown in towards Boyson's area. That traffic going through Crown to Boyson's, holding up traffic on the M2 also from Joe Slovo trying to hook into that Mike 1 South via the Crown. There's been a crash on the N12 driving westbound just by 4 Trekker Road in the Alberton area. So coming off the N3 at Elands Interchange as you get out through Alberton, that's quite slow. N3 southbound through Sprayview, the congestion there is eased after clearance of the earlier protesting action. R21 home to Boksburg, heavy again today. No traffic lights down by East Rand Mall, so R21 onto Ritfontein Road, quite a heavy backlog. And there's been a crash on Main Road at Witkoppen. Both of those routes under pressure. Witkoppen to Four Ways and Main Road as you line up from the Bryanston side trying to get through towards Lone Hill. Quite heavy backlogs there. Across into Durban today, not the worst run through the traffic that we've seen. The M13 though, from Cliff heading down towards Hillcrest, that's a little bit busy. Looks like an obstruction around Maytime. Rossborough is busy with truck congestion. Routes like South Coast Road and the M7 have been jamming up all day today. Cape Town, Marine Drive, bit of traffic through Pardon Island and again out through Milnerton, looking fairly standard. And the N1 out of town slow from Marine Drive, right out to Okavango Road in the Brackenfell area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
You know, I just want to pick up that point because we played that sound of Gary Player earlier on, right? So here he is with Donald Trump and a whole lot of young people in the White House. And this is what Gary Player said, and it's covered by Fox News, okay? I say to the young people, just love this country because you don't realize what's going on around the world. There is a silent war taking place against America today. And what we've got to do is make these kids realize that freedom, exercise, and education starts with reading some books. What you put in your body is so important. Then he said, what a wonderful job. He said Kennedy has done, but I think there's a mistake because Fox has corrected it saying he implied Trump. What a wonderful job Trump has done. And to all your cabinet ministers, I say thank you for maintaining this great word, this cherished word, freedom. Right. Gary Player. Reaction. Let's hear it from you. More to come. What about Joburg residents? Are you concerned at all about in fact, South Africans, about the hantavirus? The ANC in Greater Joburg, they have a position on it. We'll talk about that next.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental dispute, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When Avukile was diagnosed with blood cancer, his only hope was a stem cell transplant from a matching donor. Thankfully, a perfect match was found, and Avukile received the transplant that saved his life. But thousands of patients in South Africa are still waiting to find their match. Together, we can give more patients like Avukile a second chance at life. Visit dkmsafrica.org.
This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So there's been lots of talk about the hantavirus and whether it's being spread through rodents, through rats, or human-to-human contact. So there's concern, right? Now the ANC, Greater Joburg region, that is, they have a position on this. They're pretty worried about a potential health crisis in South Africa, but in Joburg, after a man was confirmed to have the hantavirus was flown then to Sandton for treatment. The man, who is a British national, was from the Ascension Island in the South Atlantic, flown into Joburg for treatment, right? Another Dutch tourist was on board the MV Hondias, was flown from the island of St. Helena to the city of Ekurhuleni, where she was then supposed to board a flight to the Netherlands. She later collapsed and died at the Kempton Park Hospital. So, should you be concerned? Well, Amukelani Mashele, the ANC Greater Joburg acting spokesperson, may well think so. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your viewers.
Okay, what are you concerned about?
We are concerned because this hantavirus, it's in our city, and it's linked, like you said, to an international cruise ship outbreak that has actually already claimed multiple lives in other countries. And what happened is that the wife of the husband died on a ship, and World Health Organization has confirmed that there was this hantavirus. But when they got to the airport, the lady was allowed to enter our country, and the lady went to Johannesburg. So we are concerned as the residents of Johannesburg that this virus might spread, and our health system, we are unfamiliar within our public health environment.
But in terms of the health, in terms of the health experts, they don't foresee a huge cause for concern. It comes from the WHO. On the one hand, it comes from South African experts. We've chatted to Tulio de Oliveira. I think Dr. Karim has said something similar, that there's no real cause for concern. We're talking about on a mass scale, as we've seen with COVID-19. Are you concerned about that?
No, we are very concerned, because even with COVID-19, it was a similar issue that the World Health Organization, as well as other organizations, have raised that we can't be concerned. But the concerning matter is that there are no information that is given to the residents on what necessarily happened and what the Health Organization is doing with this matter, and which institution, including public health authorities, aviation regulatories, as well as provincial department, were not informed in ensuring that they manage this process. We don't even know how many passengers who were from the St. Helena flight with deceased Dutch women, and how many people were traced, how many people were accounted for, and we don't even know currently if there's any exposure to hantavirus for people of Johannesburg.
So, concerning your concerns and considering the ANC's proximity to government, what then are you doing about it?
We are now discussing the matter. We had our meeting yesterday and we discussed this issue. We will, of course, contact the Minister of Health, Arun Motsoaledi, and we reaffirm our stance that Minister Motsoaledi is taking this matter very serious. We are of the view that the Minister must do a press briefing instead of a press release, to ensure that there is accountability and clarity, and also to ensure public assurance.
Well, knowing the minister is normally pretty transparent, he may well call into the show anyway and give his position. So probably stay tuned on that one. Thank you for your time, right? And that's Amukelani Mashela, the ANC Greater Joburg's acting spokesperson here on the National Pulse. By the way, are you concerned at all about the hantavirus? Conflicting statements. One big concern, others are like, hey, it's not being spread. It's spread from rodents to human being, but not human to human. In fact, Maria van Kerkhove, who plays a huge role at the WHO, right? I mean, she tweeted. Let me find that tweet because I think it's an important one. She said, and before I look at it, okay, this is what she said: incredible work of the NICD in South Africa, which is the organization that deals with communicable diseases, right? Incredible work of the NICD in South Africa in sequencing the hantavirus. There has been excellent collaboration as the WHO works to coordinate efforts and actions of governments, experts around the world. The ship to keep people safe. But in fact, she believes that, hey, South Africa's got it spot on in terms of the work that they do regarding this particular virus. What do you think? Are you concerned at all? Any other issues you wish to raise? Ted Turner, having died, the founder of CNN, did revolutionize cable television and how we watch news, right? There's no doubt about that one. The Gary Player comments you want to add on, and the ongoing conversations. I'm still looking for someone to say, what should government do to deal with the reality that there are thousands of people in South Africa who are born outside this country. Many of them are now legitimately in the country. Even a refugee is legitimate. There are many others who are here illegally. But that's the reality. It can't be whisked away. There's also the reality of people concerned about their own jobs and they feel threatened. What do you think should government be doing to be able to deal with the issue in a way that is like win, 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 win all round? What should they be doing? Have you heard any government minister or the president speaking to you, addressing this issue that is convincing to you? If that's the case, I want to know about it.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
We're going to have a story to talk about just now. I just love the story of 1,000 people taking their grant money to set up a bakery. Now that's a big champion story to talk about, isn't it? Right, here's one to talk about.
Ashraf, good afternoon. The problem that we do have in South Africa is that as the general public, we know it's been proven time and again. We've got the ad hoc committee, we've got the Madlanga Commission, the Zondo Commission. It's been proven that we can't trust the governments that's actually running the country. So what are the people supposed to do? What are the naturalized South Africans supposed to do? Yes, it's not okay just stopping any random person and asking for their pass. But what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just sit back and relax, or try to do something to actually rectify what's happening in our country?
Well, look, the biggest thing, and I'm certainly not advocating for one party over another, you have the ballot box. You have local government elections coming up now, imminently so, as you know, and then you have the national in a few years' time. But for now, that one's imminent, and that message you will send out to the politicians in terms of what is it you want, right? Right, here's another.
This is Pat in Durban. I hear you saying that it's the responsibility of the police to ask people if they're documented or not, or to show their documents. Now, if the police are not doing that, or the government does not seem to be interested, yet we are the ones who are experiencing some issues that are caused by these illegal immigrations, are we supposed to sit down and wait for the government that does not seem to care? We have to take responsibility. We are the ones who are the citizens of this country. We have to take responsibility and do it, because the government is not interested. So you can say it's not our responsibility, that the police are not doing it. So what's the solution then? Come with a solution then, Ashraf, and tell me what should we do then if the police are not doing it. We're going to end up having 1 billion people who are illegal in this country because the police are not doing anything, and you are saying we must not do anything as well?
No, I certainly did not say we must not do anything. I'm saying I can't see us going person to person in our personal capacities. You're quite right. There are authorities who should be doing it, and if they're not doing their job, that's an own goal. That's wrong. They should do their job, and therefore, hopefully, we're getting this nonsense that's taking place exposed by the Madlanga Commission and just poor leadership across the board. But I'm saying to you, and I hear you what you're saying. If we follow your line properly, remember what happened with Pagad in Cape Town, how they felt legitimately the police were doing nothing and they took the issues into their own hands. Where did that end up? Do we do the same thing when we find there are other drug pushers in our communities and we take matters in our own hands and there's other forms of crime? Why the one thing and not the other? That's the danger, that when people feel that they now have no central authority and they can do or they will do what they want because authority has collapsed. That can't be allowed to happen, and that is dangerous. On the other hand, from a leadership point of view, leaders must lead, and they're not leading at the moment. We know that there's just too many examples of that. Lala in Polokwane, hi.
Good afternoon, Ajaf.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Ajaf, your one of your colleagues from your sister station, Travel FM, Dr. Moloko Mashamaite, in one day in the radio said this: when he was lost in Botswana and he was looking for a direction, he asked an old lady who was working with a stick, and then the old lady said, "Where are you coming from? Because you are not talking our local language. Where is the passport?" So if the Botswana people can do in Botswana, why can't we do it in South Africa? We know that our law is prohibiting the law enforcement to do what the people are doing right now on the streets. Now we are supposed to do it. We cannot allow this country going down. The Nigerians doing whatever that they want to do. When the police are coming to arrest them, they beat the police, and we have to keep quiet. By the sharing that when we are saying that people are saying we cannot do that, Ashraf. We must act, and we must act and show that these people are illegal. We know that they are illegal, but no one
But the question is, how do we act, Lala? I got that. How do we act in a way that is responsible? That means ability to make a responsible decision. That's what we need to be doing, isn't it? Right, more to come. There's lots of further comments from you, and keep those calls coming as well. They are most welcome. WhatsApp comments, live calls when we open the lines for you as well. And we'll have a Madlanga Commission wrap up around 5:45. But coming up next, a real story of hope. It really is, right after this.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two athletes at the height of their powers fight for more than victory. They fight for the fight itself. Zakir Badat, 8 wins, all finishes. Zico Makangela, 5 wins, 5 knockouts. Champion and former champion collide in Africa's biggest welterweight championship fight. EFC 133, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, we'll get to further comments from you just now. But once in a while we talk about real stories of hope in communities where effectively, champion communities are being built. So years one, around 1,200 social relief of distress grant beneficiaries. So they're beneficiaries of these grants, right? They didn't just use the money. Small amounts, desperate as they may be, they use the money to invest in what is now called the Isinkwa Setu campaign, which has been run by somebody who knows what he's doing, Sibusiso Ntsele, in Everton. And the result of that is quite something. Let's find out about it. Sibusiso, you're with us. Thanks for joining us from Everton, right? You're live on the National Pulse.
Okay. How are you, my brother?
I'm very good indeed. Tell us, yours is a remarkable story of you and your community. Tell me about it.
Okay, firstly, I would like to greet your listeners all over South Africa. Okay, the Isinkwa Setu campaign is actually a story that needs to change people's lives. That was the plan when I started this. Because when you come into Everton, you see collapsed infrastructure, companies are closing, everything is bad on this side. Nothing is good at all. So I then sat alone and thought to myself, what can I do to uplift my community? And then the only thing that all of us are in an advantage of getting, it's that 370 SRD grant. Most families here in the Val, they receive that grant. I then thought that is the only money that we can be sure that at least a person can have. So I then said, no, let me just try to do something about it. Doing research on bread, I realized that bread makes a lot of money in South Africa. I mean, if we've got more than 60 million people, approximately 5.5 million buys bread on a daily basis. And that is one commodity that a family can't live without buying on a daily basis. I then thought this is one thing that we could benefit from as a community. And also looking at the grocery sector to say, if the grocery sector is worth more than 8 billion rand, then that means that 8 billion rand is money coming from us. So why should we be consumers and not at least benefit from the ecosystem? I then thought, let me just start something with the 350. I researched on a bakery that was closed. It was actually lingering. It was selling a few loaves a day, employing 1 or 2 people, but it was ready to shut down. I then went and approached them. Then I bought all the equipment within the bakery. Not everything was working. We found everything collapsed, but at least there was one oven that was working, and then the proofer was dilapidated. So many things were not working properly. I then had to resuscitate them, hire technicians to come and fix them, and then we started. So immediately I shared the ideas with the people of Isinkwa Setu. I had 1,000 people coming in approximately a week. And then I went to the complex Sakis, and then bought the equipment. Through Isikolo Investment Stokvel, I then topped it up, made sure that the bakery becomes alive and we can now supply. So it's quite a journey because we are 4 months in, actually 5 months in now. We've actually went a step of getting our own barcode as a Sinkwa Setu, having all our having our own plastic designed.
Okay. So you got it all. So basically, bottom line, these people, you're saying 1,000 people came together and effectively contributed from their grant of 360 a month, and now that group has a bakery. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
And how big is this bakery? I mean, how many loaves do you produce a day, and are you able? I take it you're selling it all.
You know, right now we are able to sell almost 3,000 loaves. Up to so far, we're still covering rent. We're still covering salaries. We're still covering stock. We're still covering electricity.
Okay.
But we're moving in the right direction because we started not having a single client, but now the rest of the people in the Val, they are now exposed to the bread, and they all want to support the business. So in no time we would be at least breaking even by making sure that we can sell maybe more than 30,000 loaves a day.
Well, listen, this is a real champion story as far as I'm concerned. Here's the question, how did you convince the people to give away their 360 rands when I would think they all needed the money in the first place? I mean, how do they do that when they are living hand to mouth themselves?
Honestly, you see, when you talk to people, you need to make them understand the real challenges that we are facing. And you need to make them understand that we would be facing these challenges for the rest of our lives for as long as we don't change our situation. And I've realized that the people of the Val now, they're up in arms. All of them, they want to change the situation because, I mean, people are unemployed in here. And when I presented it, it made them understand that we can employ one another, which is exactly what we did.
Mm-hmm. So who manages the business on a day-to-day basis?
There's a lady that I hired called Pinky. She's the one that is running the place right now. And then she's very good in terms of that. She understands everything about the bakery. She understands everything about clientele. She's got the information that we needed, you know, and we are moving in the right direction.
Okay.
Yes, we had hiccups here and there because we had to make sure that we deliver quality bread, which took us time because when we started the team, we only managed to manufacture standard bread. And then standard bread is this cheap bread that is sold by 10, 11 rand, 12 rand. But the quality of our standard bread had to supersede the standard of normal standard bread that is sold.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, clearly you've got your ideas all screwed on the right way. I understand you're a financial advisor. But here's the last thing, right? Very quickly, has there been any concerns that, you know, everybody's coming together and this is like a whole pyramid scheme and somebody's going to run away with the money? Has there been that sort of concern, or is that this is something completely different?
No. Look, I have a stokvel called Isikolo Investment Stokvel. And I've been doing the stokvel for the past 3 years. And we've had plans within the stokvel that are ranging from 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 36 months, where people put in money and then they wait for their money. I make money with the money and pay them. And I've had people who have benefited in the Isikolo Investment Stokvel for more than 5-6 times. So, I mean, people understand that
whatever I do is realistic. There's no way. A pyramid scheme is when you say a person must give you money today, you give them tomorrow. I mean, realistically, so where would you have taken the money?
Yeah, this is bricks and mortar. I mean, you have an actual business. All right, let's leave it at that. Listen, well done. I think we very inspired by what you've done and how you've inspired other people. When we talk about, building communities that can change the face of our country, there's a great example of that. Sibusiso Ntsele, the founder of the Isinkwa Setu campaign in Everton, getting people together, $360 a month, put it together, you get 1,000 people, you're now in a bakery delivering 3,000 loaves of bread a day. Action taken. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg.
Quick look at the headlines. The Northern Cape Cooperative Governance MEC's placed the Salt Blaki municipality under administration. Motorists have been advised to exercise caution due to protest action taking place on the N3 towards Leondale, east of Johannesburg. And as CNN's founder, Ted Turner, has died. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, big PSL soccer clash in Pretoria this evening. Mamelodi Sundowns hosting Kaizer Chiefs at Loftus Stadium. I can tell you it's already jam-packed. Looks like it's going to be a really good attendance. There are some road closures in place to manage the traffic flow around Loftus, and pretty much any route to the ground locally is jammed and jammed solidly. Kick-off 7:30. A couple of hours of heavy traffic in that area. The N1 North in Pretoria, slow going up towards Castfontein. The M1 through Midrand. Queues really from about Sandton through to about Samrand. Before you're out of that, breakdown on the M1 South after Ravonia causing a delay from Buccleuch, and a crash off the highway on Main and Witkoppen, still badly backing traffic as well. R21 home to Boksburg, heavy, no traffic lights down at East Rand Mall. There's also quite big traffic coming down from Sandton today on the Mike 1, from sort of Sandton Melrose all the way down to the Boysons exit. Now this is important. If you need to go between Pongola and Piet Retief, the N2 is closed for truck crash recovery just north of the provincial border. It's on the Mpumalanga side, on the Piet Retief side, but the full closure of the N2 and traffic just being stacked up, and maybe for a while the alternative route, well, it's the long way round via Vryheid if you need to get that way this afternoon and into this evening. Durban side, the highway's generally okay. There's a bit of traffic on the N3 inbound Pavilion to Spaghetti Junction to watch out for, and Cape Town today all fairly standard, including a pretty heavy N1 highway from Woodstock. Going to see traffic right through to the Brackenfell Boulevard exit. N2 outbound passing the airport towards Khayelitsha's Muway is under a bit of queuing pressure. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, now, Tumi, are you going to the game today?
If I was, I'll be on the way right now.
Reserve seating, that.
Yeah, but you heard Rob right now was saying that it's already packed with regards to traffic going to Loftus, and all eyes will definitely be on Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs. And Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says careful management of his players' workload will definitely be crucial, especially just looking at the Betway Premiership title race. Obviously, tonight they take on Kaizer Chiefs after a demanding stretch of 7 matches in 21 days, and no victory over Amakosi would move them another step closer to retaining the crown.
The objective is the same. The way we're going to work through, there's not a lot of time. For sure, you may imagine that for us the recovery process is the most important. They didn't play for a long time, so since Pirates, I think they don't play. What means that they come with full energy, and we will be also with full energy for sure. That's good match ahead. Let's go for it.
There's also Champions League action this evening. Paris Saint-Germain up against Bayern Munich, and PSG head coach Luis Enrique says that 1 goal advantage is nothing ahead of their clash. PSG lead the tie 5-4 on aggregate from the first leg. It'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. Elsewhere, FIFA President Gianni Infantino has defended the steep rise in World Cup ticket prices, insisting the organization is obliged to apply U.S. market laws that permit resale at vastly inflated rates. He argued that the demand for the 2026 tournament, which has already generated over 500 million ticket requests, justifies higher face value prices, with final tickets now reaching $11,000, around 180,000 rands compared to 4 years ago in Qatar, where the final ticket was $1,600, which was around 26,000 rands. Imagine. So from 26,000 rands to 180,000 rands.
I must tell you, and I have to choose my words carefully, whatever Infantino says doesn't impress me.
Not at all.
He's Infantino. He must grow up.
In terms of netball, KZN Queen's coach Precious Mthembu says that she is pleased with her consistency. This is after finishing second in the opening leg of the 2026 Telkom Netball League. The Queens collected 11 points from 5 wins, just 3 behind leaders Western Cape Tornadoes, firmly positioning themselves as title contenders.
I think the girls are really encouraged by how the first leg has unfolded. Finishing second with 5 wins, it shows and it does reflect not just consistency but also commitment and work ethic. I'm aware that the girls haven't really reached their full potential, and they also know that as yet. There are just a few areas we need to tighten up, especially on crucial moments. That is, I would say, maybe discipline and under pressure, especially. Going into the second leg, the focus is really just cleaning up on errors, building a really strong cohesion and being in sync. Is something that I really speak about in the team, building team meetings and things like that. And then obviously the momentum we have created so far, I think the girls have really put up their hand in doing so well in this league. And I think, it's a good confident booster for them to do well again in second leg.
In cricket, the Board of Control for Cricket in India has confirmed that this year's Indian Premier League final will be staged in Ahmedabad instead of Bengaluru. The change comes after operational and logistical issues at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, where last year's title celebrations were marred by a deadly stampede. The Narendra Modi Stadium, which is the world's largest cricket venue with a capacity of 132,000, will now host the final on the 31st of May. It's 4th in 5 years. Then finally, the world's top paddle players are set to descend on South African soil when the Pretoria Premier Paddle 2 event takes place at the Sunbet Arena at Times Square in July of the Lambok 2025 season that saw the leading official global professional paddle tour debuted in the United States. The 2026 season will feature 26 tournaments across 18 countries, and South Africa has now been included. Statistically, the fastest growing sport in the world, the paddle boom hit South Africa over 5 years ago, and it has enjoyed its own rise across the country. And Prime Media Sports Vice President Toby Badenhorst has shared that they're really looking forward to all the action that is going to take place in Pretoria. And obviously, Ashraf is going to be there.
If they invite me, ask me where I'm going tonight.
Where are you going tonight?
I'm going to the Wanderers Cricket Stadium.
Paddle?
For the launch of the Diamond League paddle, which is, in fact, the preeminent league in South Africa at this moment, professionally, of paddle in the country.
Nice.
There we are.
I'll have more on other sports tomorrow.
This May, SAFM invites you to be exposed and engaged in a different conversation. Not the Africa you think you know, but the Africa that surrounds you. What does it mean to be African today? In our politics, in our economies, in our cross-border movements, in our rich cultures, in our evolving identities. Every day we traverse this continent. 54 countries, 54 unique stories, one shared future. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Addis Ababa, and right here at home. Because South Africa is not separate from Africa. It is a vital part of it. SAFM Africa Month. Conversations, context, connection.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, Jimmy Moya hosts the SAFM Market Updates, and to set the scene, Jimmy, let's talk about fly affairs in the news, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. It certainly is in the news. Today was, of course, the FlySafair birthday sale. For those that missed out on that, I am on the FlySafair website at the moment, and I see that there are 1 or 2 tickets left over for the birthday sale. But that's not necessarily what we're looking at. Alongside this year's birthday sale came a data breach that had consumers quite concerned. We're going to be looking at that in a bit more detail. There's been an official statement released by FlySafair confirming that data breach and apologizing to customers for the disruptions that has caused. We're going to be looking at that in a bit more detail on the show a little later on. We're also going to be speaking to the team at the International Trade and Administration Commission. They are seeking to potentially diversify their revenue streams in an effort to better capacitate the organization as it currently stands. The organization has 100 staff of the 130 allotted staff that they should have, and the business is looking to increase their revenues, but also looking to do more work by potentially adding on members to their team. So we're going to speak to the Chief Commissioner of ITAC around that and get his thoughts on what their plan is there. Then we have a conversation with the South African Association for Freight Forwarders, taking a look at the Southern African ports, and not just South Africa's ports, that are missing out on the rerouted volumes as a result of the Strait of Hormuz's closure. We're going to be taking a look at that in a bit more detail. We've previously looked at this as the opportunity that it was, but it doesn't seem as though that opportunity is translating into what we thought it might be. So we're going to dig into that in a bit more detail. Then we have a conversation with the team at Allan Gray, taking a look at what to do when markets are cooling, particularly equity markets, and you're looking to make long-term investment decisions around when to get in. And then we're going to wrap up the show as we do every Wednesday with an Executive Lounge conversation. I'll be joined in studio by the founder of Jabu Natural Stone Products. Jabu Stone, these are products that we've seen in many of our retail outlets. The business has been around for well over a decade at this point. We're going to get a sense of how that business was built and what we can learn about its founder. So that's what's coming up on the show today. Before we get to all of those conversations, a sense of some of the market movements that have been taking place throughout the day. It's been a much better day on the equities front, especially locally. Locally, if we look at what's been happening all around, though, it's been a green day across the board. Biggest winner in Asian markets was the Shanghai index up 1.1%, but the ASX in Sydney was up 1%. The Hang Seng Hong Kong was also up about 1%, so they were close behind there. If we look at European markets, that was even more impressive. The CAC 40 up 3.1%. The DAX and the Germany each up 2% on the day's trade. US markets at the moment are also trading in the green, north of 1%, in the case of the S&P, the NASDAQ, as well as the Dow Jones. The gold price closer to $4,700 a fine ounce, up from $4,500 yesterday. The Brent crude price closer to $100 a barrel, down from the $112 that we've been seeing this week. So clearly markets are optimistic that we might find some resolution here. The platinum price is above $2,000 a fine ounce. The palladium price above 1,500. The rand, 16 rand 42 against the US dollar, 19.29 against the euro, 11.88 against the Australian dollar, and 22.32 against the British pound. Local markets, as I said, had a bolster of a day. Resource stocks leading the charge, up 6.4%. Industrials up 2.5%, and financials up 2.2%. The all share up 3.6%. The top 40 up almost 4% on the day's trade. We're basically almost back at 120,000 points on the all share. We did briefly touch above that. We're going to be looking at these and other market movements with Otto 1890's David Shapiro. He joins me on markets a little later on. But of course, that comes up after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. Looking forward to your show, 6 to 7, just about 15 minutes away.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Now, I'll get to your calls just now. You can call in live. If you're a first-time caller, let me know so I can welcome you to the show, man. I mean, really, wherever. Male, female, young callers, student activists. Where are the student activists in our country? If they're not calling into the show, what are you doing? How is it that you can ignore the fact that your voice is the single most important voice in the country right now? And if you don't call in, we're not going to hear you. So yes, I'm talking about you who's on the campus, at universities, colleges. Let's hear your voice about South Africa today, tomorrow, maybe yesterday too. In the meantime, let's talk about the Madlanga Commission. Proceedings at the Madlanga Commission resumed this morning after a brief disruption, which is rather bizarre, caused by a fire alarm that went off at the Bridget Mabandla College, right? Now, the alarm prompted a precautionary evacuation of attendees, including members of the media, but there were no injuries, so everything's fine there. Emergency services from the city of Tshwane responded to the scene, and an investigation has been launched to determine the cause of not the fire, but the fire alarm, right? As far as the work itself for today, Major General Hendrik Flynn, the component head for serious organized crime at the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, which is the Hawks, he continued with his testimony. So Flynn told the Commission that there was non-compliance in the transfer of exhibits from the Isipingo police station to the Hawks premises in Port Shepstone, and then continued saying that there is a mechanism in place to request a forensic science laboratory to prioritize an investigation.
Commissioner Khumalo posed, it would not be reasonable of us to expect the request and the response to the request to follow a stated format, be in writing, addressed to a specific unit head within the FSL, and responded to in writing. That is not your experience and practice, so we should not expect that to be the case in all, if not most of the cases. And I'm relying on your experience here.
That's correct, Commissioners. But as I said yesterday, when it's inquiry investigations, and it's not, for instance, a court matter, there is not that pressure on the investigation team to get the investigation finalized like in a case docket that is currently before court. And I've indicated that there is a mechanism in place where we can request the forensic science laboratory to prioritize an investigation. But I think it's neither here nor there. It's important that whenever there is such bulk seizures being made, that it in any event, whether it's a case docket or an inquiry, needs to be a priority. And requests need to be submitted then to the Forensic Science Laboratory for urgent submission.
Thanks, General. I think perhaps I was somewhat inarticulate in my question. We are trying to determine what is the general process in engaging with FSL. Is there a prescribed process or manner in which a request to the FSL must be made? And does any protocol require that it be in writing and that FSL respond to that request similarly in writing? Is there such a protocol or not?
I'm not aware of such protocol, Commissioners, but logic dictates that if it's in writing, it cannot be disputed, especially if there's proof of a receipt.
Commissioner.
Right, and then Major General Flynn then said he's unsure whether any of Lieutenant General Mosekili's recommendations on disciplinary measures for handling exhibits were ever put into action.
Now, I would like you, I guess for the record, there are 4 recommendations made. If perhaps you could read them into the record, and then we will consider what is set out therein. Thank you.
6.1, that the national head appoint a senior functionary at the level of a Major General to lead an investigation in terms of SAP's disciplinary regulations 2016 to establish whether misconduct was committed in the handling and storage of the exhibits. 6.2, that the senior functionary provides the outcome of the departmental investigation in terms of Regulation 8.1 of the SAP's Disciplinary Regulation 2016. 6.3, that an audit be done at all DPCI buildings and offices to check compliance with minimum information security standards. And 6.4, that the Provincial Head KwaZulu-Natal provides a progress report on the site inspection recommendations by Crime Intelligence during January 2020.
General, before we deal with other issues here, are you aware if any of these recommendations were given effect? My apologies. I'll restate that. I think before we deal with the remainder of that document, I would like to find out whether you, based on the position you occupy within DPCI, are aware of whether or not any of these recommendations were given effect to.
Commissioners, it is my understanding that no disciplinary steps were initiated against Major General Sonona or any of his subordinates. So that speaks then to obviously recommendation 6.1 and 6.2.
Right, so there we are. That's it in terms of a review of a shortened day at the Madlaga Commission because of an early adjournment. The commission itself resumes tomorrow at 9:30. You, however, I need to hear you out because you have the fingers on the pulse, don't you?
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Tolani Gwala will be back again for you 6 to 9 Monday here on SAFM.
And
thanks, Tolani. Good morning and welcome to Morning Talk with me, Sikim Gabadeli.
The name is Bonge Kwala. Good to be with you till midday today. Let's engage South Africa.
Welcome to Morning Talk on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader, with me, Rowena Bird.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM.
Right, FlySaf's 12th birthday sale might be over, but the dash for cheap flights lives on. That's right, FlySaf has now made all domestic flights 30% off, right, until midnight tonight if you book for travel up to the 27th of March 2027. So you've got like a full year virtually, right? Where will you dash to first? The mountains, the coast, the people you love most, maybe somewhere new with an amazing view, or to whatever inspires you. Well, wherever it is, make a dash to flysafair.coza now and snatch up to 30% off. Flights, T's and C's apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
There's just a quick comment I've got, which I thought is worth repeating, from Hopeful Chinono. You know, he tweets as Daddy Hope, and he's got a picture of himself together with Ted Turner, you know, the founder of CNN, who died today, right at the age of 87. Hopewell said, "I'm saddened to hear of the passing of the man who introduced a 24-hour rolling television news to the world, the founder of CNN, Ted Turner. I met him in Atlanta in 2008 and had lunch with him at his beloved Ted's Montana Grill," right? I'm going to move on to other things. He said he donated $1 billion to the United Nations and became one of the greatest philanthropists of his generation. Sadly, he told me then that he was disappointed by the direction CNN had taken under big corporate ownership, where profits had begun to take precedence over serious global journalism. I asked him what he considered to be his greatest achievement at CNN, and without hesitation he said, Inside Africa, the program that brought African stories into living rooms across the world and showed the continent beyond the stereotypes of war, disease, coups, and corruption. He said more. Check out his tweet, Hopeful Chinono, as Daddy Hope, right? For calls, Bramoro in Bloom, what can you say?
Yeah, Ashraf, thank you.
Yes, thank
March
you.
and March, Operation Dudula and the rest are not asking much more from the country, but we have to have a uncomfortable conversation. It's one solution. Let's legalize all undocumented migrants. Deportation shouldn't be on the card because it's going to cost the country a lot. The person is already in the country illegally. They don't have the money to deport themselves. So I wouldn't allow the country to use my taxpayers' money to deport someone who is illegal. But rather, if we properly document them, grant them amnesty, they pay for that document that they are going to be issued with. Even if it's asylum paper that lasts for a year, or a normal general permit that lasts for a year or two, and if they have to pay 2,000 rand or 3,000 or at most 5,000 rand, I'm sure every migrant who is illegal will pay. And then during that period, Home Affairs will start to scrutinize everyone. Those with criminal record, they start to deport them, even if you have the permit. As long as you are now.
So you mean those that are here illegally but have no criminal record, they should be given an amnesty?
100%.
Okay. Would you say that if they're here illegally, it's already a criminal record? I mean, they don't have they haven't been to court, but would you say that would be illegal too?
For us to get those who are illegally, but they are having criminal record, we have to find a different means, which is a form of amnesty. You understand?
Yeah.
Because I might be illegal and I might also be a criminal, but I don't have a criminal record because the SAPS are unable to track me. But if you grant me an amnesty in which I present myself, you already capture my fingerprint. So if I've ever been involved with any crime, you just hook me on the spot.
Okay,
it's like getting a rat.
All right, sorry. Bramoro? No, it's gone. Okay, but I think you made your point, and I've got that very clearly. I wonder if others support that, a one-off amnesty for all these undocumented foreign nationals so that we as a country can move ahead. Right, here's some further comments from you.
It's Daniel from Durban. I must say the gentleman that put the company together with the bread, brilliant idea. Hard work, pace. And I'm just overwhelmed, excited. I pray to God Almighty that this company will grow and will be a good model for people that's sitting and saying, where is the handout? I just commend my brother there and all the best to him and the team.
I just so agree with you. Can you just imagine what good may come out of this? Like, if this is now replicated in the country, remarkable change.
Ashraf, I often hear people on this show calling in saying that this thing of SRT grant must be scrapped. And I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about because some of us solely rely on this grant. I'm speaking for myself. If it wasn't for this grant, I do not know what life would have been for me. It has made so much change in my life. Yes, as little as it is, but it has made a change in my life. So I'm glad that there are positive stories out there being told on a national radio station. Thank you so much. This is Luzugu in the Eastern Cape.
Well, I agree with you. It is so inspiring indeed. And there must be more of those stories. And we must talk more of those stories, up them. We need to share those, well, I'm going to call them champion stories, right?
Hi, Ashraf. Bongani here in Bombela. What's happening in our country is very painful. We vote for people that we think will govern this country properly. But then we find ourselves in this situation where there's illegal immigrants roaming our country, doing all sorts of illegal things. And definitely people will take matters into their own hands. They will definitely take matters into their own hands. I don't blame them because the government that we put in is doing nothing. They allowing people to come in and out of this country. There's just no control at all. That's how I feel.
Okay, and
it's painful, really painful.
And that is why so much has to happen about it. It can't just be left alone, can it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm Sweden. The Tembisa residents are doing a good thing, which they should have done a long time ago. But they are going about it a wrong way. Getting rid of foreign-owned spaza shops doesn't even need a protest. You just talk to the people who are renting out their properties to these foreigners to tell them to vacate their spaces, as we did it here in Guatemala and Duduza. And as we speak right now, there's not even a single foreign-owned spaza shops in our communities. Thank you.
And what has replaced those spaza shops now that they're gone? There are many others, there's just not enough time to play them, and others are like longer than 30 seconds, so we really have difficulty playing them. You see, if you had a 15-second, I could play that now, but I can't, not for 50 seconds. But listen, bottom line, thanks for listening into the show. Catch the podcast of all that we've done today, safm.co.za. Feel free to engage with SAFM Radio on social media and with myself. I'd love to engage with you, and the challenge to you as you go home is like, let's get more of the campus students to talk to us on these shows. We absolutely have to hear their voices. It's 6 o'clock. It's time for the news. Here's Greg.
Municipality placed under administration and CNN's founder passes away. Good evening. The Northern Cape Cooperative Governance MEC Bentley Vass has placed the Solplaatje municipality in Kimberley under administration. This follows months of instability, court battles and pending disciplinary action against the municipal manager at the biggest municipality in the province. In March, attempts by the MEC to meet with municipal councillors collapsed following a walkout and a scuffle between some of the councillors. The municipality had until the first week of April to provide reasons why it should not be placed under administration or dissolved. They missed that deadline. Motorists have been advised to exercise caution due to protest action on the N3 towards Leondale east of Johannesburg. The Ekurhuleni Metro Police spokesperson, Sisanda Madishana, says residents are unhappy over a